literally that were told they were going to die. They had liver damage. Their kidney. I think it was their kidneys were shutting down. This has happened to my dogs. I've had my dogs throwing up for 2 days, and I'll give them a syringe of kefir because they don't want to eat, and I'll stick it in their mouth, and the next day they're fine. I mean, this happens so many times. And you don't have to believe me, you just have to try it. But dogs respond faster to kefir than anything. I've never seen anything like it. They really do well. That's a great testimony, because I have so many dog testimonies on my page, my Lives Touch page, that people send in. And I love it that there's something out there that's natural, that's just food that can help our little furry friends, because they just seem to respond faster than even humans. So it's amazing. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it. Do you have a question?
Yes, I thank you. And I do also have a question in regards to cultured vegetables. So my husband was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. I think you're probably familiar with that. So I've been making kefir and kombucha, and we really like those. And for cultured vegetables, I've been having success with jicama and making, blanking on the name, the like spicy sauerkraut with cabbage, with napa cabbage. Kimchi, yes. We've been eating lots of that. We both love it. But I haven't had any success with the other recipes. And I think it might be because I'm using the wrong kind of salt. So if you
what kind of salt are you using?
I've tried a couple different ones. I've tried pink Himalayan salt, just iodized and non-iodized table salts. It seems like that no matter which one I choose, it's not really firming up well. I have a lot of really soft cultured vegetables that just don't taste very good. So if there's any advice you have in regards to that, that would be wonderful.
Well, one of the things about salt is salt makes vegetables crunchy. So one of the best salts to use is the Celtic sea salt, because it has so many minerals in it. So does Himalayan, but for some reason Celtic, it just makes the vegetables crispy, and you need to make sure you're using enough. If you're probably not using enough salt, how much are you making? A half gallon, quart? What are you making at a time?
Typically in a half-gallon jar.
And how much salt are you using?
About a quarter cup.
A quarter cup of salt?
Yeah.
And what are you making?
I've tried quite a few different things. What mainly was like the pickle recipes this summer.
Are you doing it for 3 days on the counter?
Yeah.
You're fermenting it for 3 days on the counter, and they get soggy and mushy?
Yeah.
Pickles are weird. Okay, I have a whole how to get crunchy pickles. Okay, if you want crunchy pickles, you've got to put tannins in there, which are like from tea leaves or from leaves like oak trees. I mean, seriously, it needs those tannins in it to get them crunchy and crispy. Sure. And Macy, can you find her that link for how to make crunchy pickles?
Yeah.
Because those specifically need more help. For some reason, pickles tend to want to get mushy. What's your culture you're using?
The one that I got from you. And
the cutting edge?
Yeah, yep. And then back to the pickles. I've been growing them in my garden here and then doing it same day. I don't know if it's best to like pick them and let them sit for a while, or if it's.
Are you cutting off the blossom at the end?
Yeah,
that will make them soft. If you don't cut off the blossom end, if you don't cut that little edge off, if they're fresh out of the garden, they can make your pickles really soggy.
Okay, all right.
So you got it. There's something as an enzyme in the blossom end that makes them soggy. Yeah, Macy.
Okay, yep, I see the link down here, Macy. Thank you for that.
Okay, you got the link? Okay.
Yeah, appreciate
it. One last tip. So, because I've been gardening this year too. So make sure that you're using pickling cucumbers. Okay. So if you're using cucumbers that are higher in like water content and they're fatter and bigger or like really long, I'm trying to think, like they'll literally will say pickling on the packet. They're denser and have a lower water content.
Okay.
So, because I tried to use those like slicer cucumbers that are like fatter and longer, and they will always be mushy because they have a high water content. So you want to use ones that are like literally say pickling or like gherkin or something like that, because they'll be denser and they will naturally have less water in them.
Okay.
That's probably what because I did that same thing and I was like,
yeah, bummer. I just want to get it down so we can get these good nutrients in us. So thank you. Appreciate that.
You're welcome. Hey, Chris, I want to ask you a question. I'm having trouble hearing everybody. Can everybody hear? It's really muffled for me. What do you think that is, Chris?
I can hear you just fine.
I can't hear everybody else. I'm having to strain to hear everybody.
Can you maybe just turn your computer audio up?
It's all the way up. I don't know what that's about. So I'm looking at the volumes up. So, oh, wait, I just clicked off of everybody. Hang on. There we go. So I don't know what it is. I'll just keep going.
All right.
It doesn't sound very loud. I didn't know if everybody else was having the same
Yeah,
problem.
you sound great to me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I saw Carmela. Is that Carmela? Her question was, men are told not to drink milk. There's a high correlation with milk consumption and prostate cancer.
Correct.
Can my father drink kefir without this risk? Is it the same as drinking straight milk? Okay, where is Carmela?
I'm right here.
Are you right there in the middle? Okay.
Hi, Donna. It's nice to meet you. I was excited about coming on today.
Where are you from, Carmela?
I'm from Whittier, California.
From where?
I'm from Whittier, California. That's
Whittier,
Southern California. Yes.
Okay. So a lot of people are told not to drink milk. Let me explain about this. Let me talk to you about this, okay? So kefir is a completely different food than regular milk because in the process of fermentation, the milk is really transformed. It's loaded with B vitamins. And it also puts back in vitamin C because fermentation does that. That's how the process of fermentation does. So it not only gives you probiotics and good yeast, which we don't talk about enough. Good yeast are really important too. But it also puts in B vitamin C. It lowers the sugar content because that's how you get that sour taste. Because the Lactobacillus eats all of the milk sugars out of it. So it's 99% lactose free. It's really transformative. Now, here's the deal. I have a whole article on cancer and cultured foods. And I also have kind of an expert here. Chris used to have, what did you have, Chris? Stage 3?
It was stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
What?
Yes. That was how many years ago, Chris?
This next month I'll be 10 years cancer free.
Yes. And
Congratulations.
Thank you.
The way I found Chris, or the way he found me, was he was friends with my kids. They did a lot of stuff together, but he contacted me the second day I started my Facebook page. I think he had contacted cancer, and he contacted me and said, "Can you help me learn to make kombucha?" And his journey with this has been really, really interesting and really helpful. But here's the cool thing about cancer is that, for instance, if you've had chemotherapy, what happens is the gut lining gets stripped of all of the bacteria. And you know, your gut lining is only the width of a half of a hair follicle. So it's not as, you know how your hair follicle, however thick that is, cut that in half. That's how thin your gut lining is. Well, when you have chemo and things like that, which sometimes you need to do for cancer or whatever, it strips that. And the way that they've found that people survive chemo is if the bacteria rebuilds it. If you can rebuild that gut lining with good bacteria. So the more good bacteria you have in your gut, the better you're going to do, not only with surviving cancer, but with combating it, because it has so many properties in it that allow the body to heal and reproduce the things that it needs to stay healthy. So Chris can probably attest better than anyone. How much you drink kefir all the time, right?
Oh yeah, we drink kefir shakes every day. My kids all drink it. We love it. We usually just take kefir. My kids don't really like drinking it plain just because it's so sour, but we'll put it in a blender with some fruit and splash of vanilla, and we'll usually put some kombucha in there too, and it makes a great kefir smoothie.
That was like going to be my next question. Like, how much can you drink in a day? I have been doing a cup. And is it okay to put like a little agave to sweeten it up a little bit? It tastes like a malt with the second ferment.
Yeah, we do all, I have a million recipes that I change it up. I put fruit in it. This morning I just put granola in it that I made. I put lemon curd. I have a lemon curd recipe that's really good. I mean, there's just so many different ways you can have kefir. And you know what? I need that. Can somebody find Macy or Chris? Can you find the link on cultured foods and cancer? Because I have a lot of research.
Sure. I would love to read that because I'm a nurse actually, and I'm really excited about the health benefits part of this. I also put in the chat, and you'll read it. And I don't tell anybody this, but I've only been doing this for a month and have already been seeing health benefits for myself. I have had a chronic toenail infection fungus for at least maybe a decade that I've been battling in so many different ways with essential oils, changing my diet and going vegan, and, doing a vitamin regimen, antifungal essential oils, things like that. Nothing has worked for me, and I keep fighting. And with this, I am seeing changes. I mean, the thing is flaking off, and I'm just amazed.
Well, you want to know why that's happening? Let me explain something to you. A lot of people don't understand this. This is the coolest thing ever. Okay, so let's say that, toenail fungus is a sign that you have too much yeast, too much candida yeast, right? Which isn't okay. Candida is not a bad thing. You need little bits of candida in your body, just small amounts, to digest heavy metals and things like that your regular digestive system cannot handle. And it does that for you. But here's the thing. Let's say you take an antibiotic. Well, you wipe out all the good bacteria in your gut. And the thing that's keeping that candida in its place, that's keeping it at the perfect amount, is your good bacteria. So when you wipe it out, then candida yeast has a place to grow and multiply like crazy. And when it does, it kind of starts to take over the places that belong to the bacteria. That's when things get out of control. So when you start putting good bacteria back into your body, that candida has to go back to the corner. Do you know what I'm saying? Because the bacteria takes up room in your gut and in your body so that it can't spread and multiply. That's how you keep it in check, is by having lots of good bacteria. But in this day and age, we take so many antibiotics that's why so many people struggle with candidas, because it wipes it out and then your good bacteria doesn't get replenished enough. I mean, it's always going to come back, but it really depends on what your diet's like and what's happening inside your gut and what kind of food you're eating. So the toenail fungus will have to go away as long as you flood your body with good bacteria, because it's just going to diminish and diminish and diminish because you're having a healthy diet. But if you're having a lot of sugars with it and a lot of refined carbohydrates, then it's going to have something to feed off of. Right. So if you reduce that and have lots of good bacteria in your gut by eating cultured foods, and really lots of prebiotic foods like vegetables and fruits and things that have fiber that feed your good bacteria, those problems go away. I actually have an article on that toenail fungus, don't I? Something that I have.
That would be great if you could share that. I am a believer and I'm a convert.
Yeah, and it's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah.
Can somebody find that for her, Macy or Chris?
The toenail fungus?
Yeah, it's toenail fungus.
Yeah, I posted it already.
You found it? You put it in the chat?
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Anybody? Okay, let's look at Carol Brown. How can I make your cultured vegetables to store outside of the refrigerator? I want to have it for my food storage and for times when we don't have electricity. Well, if you don't have a cold cellar, if you don't have some place that's 40 degrees, it's really hard because they'll just keep fermenting. You can't really keep them out of the fridge. They need to be cooled down, because if you keep them out of the fridge, they just keep fermenting and fermenting and fermenting. And then you lose a lot of the probiotics in them because they consume the food and then they diminish. And it still preserves it. Fermentation still preserves it, but then you'll start to get things like common yeast, which is, a lot of people think is mold, but it's not. It's a yeast that grows on top of your vegetables. It's white and kind of like, it doesn't taste very good. And it kind of has a really off taste, but that just means the yeast are proliferating, and so then you don't get as many of the good bacterias in your food. So if you have a cold storage or something that's like 40 degrees or less, then you can keep them out of the fridge. But other than that, you got to keep them. You got to keep them in a fridge somewhere.
Is there any way to can it? Like we do for our canning our fruits and vegetables?
No, because here's the deal. You need heat to can them. Well, here's the deal. Okay, here's a cool thing that you guys probably don't know. So botulism that comes in canned foods is an absolute scientific impossibility in cultured foods. And the reason being is that when you can a food, you heat it, and the only bacteria that can survive heat is botulism, and then you can it and cut off the air. And that's the only way botulism can grow, is by cutting off that air and heating all the other bacteria and killing those good bacteria. So that's how botulism can get a foothold, which doesn't happen very often, but it can. So with cultured vegetables, that never happens. You never heat them. So all those good bacteria in the cultured vegetables preserve the foods, but also keep all pathogens, and botulism can't even do anything because it can't survive because the other bacteria dominate and keep it safe. So that's, you can't really can them because then you'll kill all the good bacteria.
How long can it safely store outside of the refrigerator, right? Because our electricity's out quite often and things like that too. So I just wonder how.
Well, it could go a week or two. I mean, sometimes it just depends on what you've got. Cabbage will do the best outside the fridge, but it can get that yeasty, common yeast on it. But you can scrape it off and get it in there, and you can always put it in a cooler, and that will also help a lot. And even put a cold pack in there, and that will really help it. So it would stay outside the fridge. It'll just keep fermenting, keep getting more sour, keep getting more tart. So if you do have electricity out, I would put it in a cooler, and that's going to really help it stay a lot
But
longer.
if not, if it did have to be out, on the counter or wherever for a few days, I had to do mine in the gallon jars. Following your recipe, it would be okay for.
Yeah, for a few days.
Okay.
Yeah. And how cold is your house though?
Well, right now it's very cold.
Well, then
but usually it varies. It's usually probably about 70 or something. It varies.
Yeah, if it's pretty cold, it'll last longer out on the counter.
Okay.
It'll keep fermenting and get more sour, but it should be okay. What are you talking about? Cabbage?
Yeah, I do the recipe with the cabbage and the carrots and
The shellies?
Yes.
Yeah, that should be okay for a little while. Just as long as if it's below 70, if it's in the 68s and 60s, it'll do better.
Okay.
The colder it gets, the better. Do you know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
But it should be okay. It should be just a little bit more fermented than normal. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's see.
Don, we got a couple of questions on YouTube Live. Raphael asked, is it okay to consume different kinds of probiotics at the same time? I've heard rumors that they can kill each other.
Well, I mean, you are 100 trillion bacteria. So, here's the deal. If you're taking supplements, they are normally killed by the stomach acids. That's what your body's designed to do. It kills things in the stomach acid. Cultured foods have a protective halo around them. I have a cool video on this actually that shows the scientific part of it, where it speaks to the parts of the body that are wanted. So you should be fine, but it can cause an upset you're ingesting a lot of billions of good bacteria with cultured foods. So to add more probiotics on top of that, you're going to have a war going on in your gut because it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Most of them will probably be killed, the supplements. Most of them probably won't survive. But I took supplements for years before I called cultured foods, and they just didn't work very well for me. And they was very expensive. And I couldn't believe within a week of seeing results from just eating cultured foods. So it won't kill you, but it might cause what we call a healing crisis, which means that a lot of the good bacteria is going to dominate. It's going to clean out pathogens. And like, for instance, when Candida starts dying off, it gives off 80 toxins. And so you might feel kind of uncomfortable. So it kind of is like a nuclear blast off if you're taking probiotics with it. So it's not bad, but it's up to you. You don't really need it. Let's put it that way. So let's see. Okay, let's go to Wally Town. I'm fermenting on the counter, usually about 48 hours first ferment.
That was something she responded to me from. I already answered her.
Wally, you answered
that
Wally?
That was the second part of a question that he or she had.
Oh, okay.
That's
you
me.
Already answered? Okay. You got another.
Directly.
Well, hi, Wally, wherever you are.
I'm over here.
Where? Oh, there, Wally. Okay. Did you get your questions answered then?
Yes. So sometimes my kefir will smell like nail polish or paint. And Macy was saying she was asking me like what the ratio was. I just got kefir grains from you about 2 weeks ago. So I've only made kefir twice. But I'm in Florida, so it's really hot. And sometimes they'll ferment super quick.
Well, let me tell you something. Did they get hot in the mailbox or anything?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I tried to get them right away.
Well, the best way to get them to do okay is to make it every day. Start making kefir every day so they can bounce back, because if you're getting strong smells from it, then the yeast are more proliferate right now. They're stronger than they should be. And so the bacteria needs the warmth as far as on the counter to warm that up and to bring that back into balance. If you're you need to email us to make sure that they're okay.
Well, she's fermenting 48 hours, so that's the main.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
48 hours is why, because they don't like that. Okay, here's the thing. let me explain this. 48 hours is not better. Longer is not better when it comes to fermentation, and people think that it is. And the reason it's not is because the good bacteria starts to die off. And so because it's running out of food, okay? So 24 hours is much better. And if your house is warmer, it can even be less than that. So if you're gonna ferment for long periods, you're gonna get a strong taste in your kefir, whether it's more sour, whether it's more tart. So try going back to the 24. How warm is your home?
Pretty warm. It's Florida. And I actually have to ferment in my garage because we have a ionizer that kills bacteria in the house. So I have to ferment in the garage.
I did that one. I put one of those one time. I didn't know that it killed bacteria, and it was like sparking and firing off every 2 seconds. And I'm like, what is happening? And then I realized my husband told me it killed bacteria. I said, get that thing out of here. Because my kitchen is just, here's the thing, the more you ferment foods, the more good bacteria is infused in your home, everywhere, every part of you. I mean, it's, once you start doing this, I mean, you're giving it to everybody else. I mean, my husband, like it or not, he was getting my good bacteria. Sorry about you, but that was just the way it was going to be. And so if it's really warm, like how warm is it in your garage?
Mid 70s, low 80s.
You probably only need like 18
hours. Couple hours.
I mean, yeah. And that's why it's getting a strong smell.
Okay.
Are you using a lid?
I am using a lid, and I'm pretty sure they're really active because when I went to store them the second time, the milk that I had it stored in thickened up in the fridge, even within 3 days. They
don't like heat. I will tell you this: kefir grains don't like it really warm. They like 68 to 70 degrees. That's what they like. That's how you get creamy kefir. They do not like being hot too much. They grow like crazy. They start to separate into whey and curds.
They did. They separated.
They separate right, but you need to catch it right before it starts to do that. When you start to see little pockets in there of whey, it's done.
Okay.
That's how you know it's done. You'll start to see little bubble pockets, like on the bottom or all around the jar. Then it's done. Stick in the fridge. You can even stick it in before. That's why you're getting such a strong smell or taste.
Okay.
That's cool.
Thank you.
Okay. So let's see. What other questions? I can't tell which ones Macy's answering.
We can go to Shauna.
Shauna, why don't you just tell me your question because I can't scroll through here.
Just ask her.
I'm right here, but I have to stay muted because my daughter's in the background.
No, that's okay. That's
all right.
fine.
We're all friends and family here.
It's okay.
I've got 4 kids.
Okay.
It's all good.
All right. So yeah, my question is he does have a moles per year schedule, but I want to try and heal it naturally. So do you have any suggestions?
Her husband has basal cell carcinoma, and he's scheduled for a procedure, and she wants to know if there's anything she can do.
Oh, you should really read that article I put up here on, is he getting ready to start this week? Oh, she froze. I lost her. Did she freeze on me? Well, I tell you, whenever you're just starting it, did everybody get muted? Hello?
No, we're here.
Okay.
I think she muted herself, so she was kind of frozen there.
Okay, give her that link that we had on, it's over here in the chat. There's all kinds of links on it. And I would highly recommend the one for probiotics for different ailments. That would really help you. Can you put that in there? It has all of the different things in there, and it would really help you. It helps you to know what to do, what foods to eat, and it has it for all the different ailments. And I think that would be a really good one to help you. So thanks, Shauna.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
It's so great to meet you. Sorry, I haven't been too chatty, just in the background. So
it's okay. Don't worry about it. I mean, we're all living life as best we can here. So
I have a question you can answer if you want.
Pardon?
There's a lady that a while back, she said, you said on your website, ultra pasteurized milk will not work well with kefir. The only type of grass-fed organic milk we get in Florida is ultra pasteurized. Is it going to have less diverse amounts of good bacteria, but still be okay? This is from Jennifer.
Okay, so she's talking about ultra pasteurized milk. So here's the deal. And you're wanting organic milk. And here's the deal with organic milk. Basically, when you ferment kefir, it takes out a lot of the chemicals and pesticides in it just through the process of fermentation. And vegetables do this too. Kombucha does this too. And Often organic milk is heated to such a high degree to make it ultra pasteurized that it makes the milk very, very dead. Now, sometimes it will work to make kefir, sometimes it won't. If it's working, keep using it. But you don't necessarily, I don't use organic milk because I struggle with it doesn't make good kefir. And I know the process of fermentation takes care of a lot of things that I'm worried about. So if it's working to make kefir, keep using it. If not, you'll probably need to just not buy the organic, find the one that is regular so that it will ferment properly. So because when you heat it to, I think it's 185 degrees to make ultra pasteurized milk, it really makes the milk very, very dead. So that's why sometimes it has problems fermenting, because it just doesn't like what's happened to the milk, and it's hard for it to culture it. So, okay, here's one from Karina. When my dairy kefir separates, does the whey contain more lactose than the rest of the fermented milk? Is there a negative to fermenting so long that the kefir does separate? Okay, so this is really interesting. I just wrote an article about this too, not too long ago, about kefir whey and kefir cheese. So does the whey contain more lactose than the rest of the milk? Whenever you're making kefir, it doesn't matter if it's the whey or the cheese, it basically takes out all the lactose. That's why you get that sour taste. That's why it doesn't taste sweet anymore, because all the lactose is gone. The lactose is taken out of the milk by the bacteria, it's consumed by it. And that's also turns into probiotics. So really, I wouldn't worry about the whey having more lactose than the other part of the milk. And fermenting it too long does diminish the probiotics. So that is I don't like people to ferment it for long periods. Everybody thinks that fermenting long is better, but it's not. And I don't see Karina on here. Is she on here?
Yeah, I think she's muted and her camera's turned off, so I'm not sure if she's there. At this point, everyone, the chat, since it's kind of hard to figure out who we've answered and who we haven't, if you still have a question that we haven't answered yet, Zoom has a feature where you can raise your hand. That way we can see who still wants a question to be answered.
Okay. Is there any more? I can answer another one from YouTube too, or I can.
Yeah, someone, let's see, Esperanza said, is it bad to eat a lot of sauerkraut? Someone told me that it can hurt your teeth if you eat a lot.
You guys, people make up so much stuff that cracks me up. I have heard so many things over my life. Don't do this because this is going to happen. And I mean, I had one yet. What was the one that you told me the other day, Macy, that somebody said somebody's doctor told him to.
Oh, you can only make cultured vegetables in a crock, or they won't have good bacteria.
Which is just, I don't know where they get that from. I mean, this is ridiculous. Here's the deal. I've been doing this for, hang on, how many years? 19 years. So I have done it all. And a lot of people now are experts on this when they haven't lived it, they haven't done it, they haven't consumed it, they haven't made it. So I'm not going to tell you anything that I don't do. Okay. And if anybody was going to sick and die, it was going to be me, because I ate a ton of it. Okay. So, okay, now I forgot the question. What was the question?
About eating too much sauerkraut. Will it hurt your teeth?
That's right. Well, it was going to hurt somebody's teeth. It was going to hurt mine. So a lot of people consume sauerkraut. You don't usually consume buckets of sauerkraut, but you can have as much as you want. Somebody else, a lot of people ask me about, is it too hard on your teeth, acidic wise, stuff like that. Honestly, guys, your teeth are made, they're kind of like coral in the ocean. They're made out of minerals. And when you consume cultured foods, you get a lot of minerals with them, because that's part of what you're made of and part of what the cultured vegetables love. So as long as you're getting a lot of minerals in your diet and eating these foods, there shouldn't be a problem. Now, you know, if you're starting to see a problem, you need to check the rest of your diet too. So, but I've eaten them for 19 years and I have never had a problem with my teeth, and I have had a lot, and I've had all of the cultured foods and I've done nothing but thrive. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. So right, let's see.
Like a couple people have their hands raised. Roberta, let me unmute you.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Hi, Roberta.
Hi, Donna. I made my first batch of kombucha this week, and when I tried to fill the bottles through the spigot of a crock, my spigot got clogged with the Scoby.
Oh yeah, I've had
What
that.
did I do wrong?
Nothing. That's just part. Okay, so when you're making kombucha, sometimes the Scoby can have those little stringy things come off of it, and what those are dead yeast cells that have made bubbles and carbonation in your kombucha, and they get stringy and they look crazy, but they can get stuck. Now that's happened. So what I have done before is to take one of those long spears things. I kind of, or what do you call it? It's one of the skewers, and stuck it in the spigot to try to get it loosened out. And if you can't, sometimes you just got to take the crock pot out and clean it. After you get all the liquid off, you can transfer it to another jar if you want. But sometimes that just means that something got loose down in there. But often that skewer, a little skewer thing, will pull that out of the Scoby and release it for you, because I have done that many times.
I don't use the spigots anymore.
Yeah, we quit using the spigots after a while because we kept getting, I take that back. I used them for years. And, but then I started making so much kombucha that I was making it in 5-gallon buckets. So I just started making it in buckets.
But do you remove the Scoby before filling the jar, your bottles?
Do I what? Remove the Scoby?
Yes.
Yeah, you don't have to, but you can. I just put it back in when I'm done. You can if you want. I move it around all the time just because you want the newest Scoby on top is what you want. But you can take the Scoby out and fill your jars that way if you want, with like a funnel. That'll work. So that works too. So I haven't done that in years. Used a spigot too, because I used that for probably the first 10 years. And then we started drinking so much it was exhausting. So
also, it started to taste like vinegar on day 5, which I was shocked that it was that fast.
Oh yeah, is your house warm?
It's at 70 degrees. Well, actually, I used the heating mat and I had it between 75 and 82.
Oh yeah, so it did it faster. Just don't use it next time. It'll probably, unless you want it fast. Kombucha is all about temperature. If it's warm, it's going to ferment faster. So, and if you have more starter tea in there, it's going to ferment faster. So if you want it to do it slower or you want it faster, then you could turn off the brew belt. So if it really likes 70 to 75 degrees, it likes that. And 75E is going to make it really fast. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Who
All
else
right.
has got a question?
Mika's got a question.
Hello. Sorry.
Hi.
Hi. Hi.
Hi
Thank
there.
you so
How are
much
you?
for having me. I'm very well, thank you. I'm calling from the United Kingdom.
You are. That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I came across your YouTube video, I think 3 years ago, and I started making cultured foods. I ordered, because I'm in the UK here, so I ordered from a reputable company here, ordered the kombucha, Scoby, and the kefir grains. And I was really, I had the similar experience. I felt really much better, because backstory, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia and a bit of other autoimmune and food sensitivities. Now, after a couple of months, I started having really bad reactions to the kefir again, and sauerkraut was even the worst. It was more like really spike, like a quick response. It was more within minutes of eating anything. I would just have like high palpitations, and it was more like a histamine reaction. I found I'm a registered nurse, so
it's like a histamine response. Yeah.
So I actually was seeing a functional nutritionist at the time, and so I stopped all fermented foods, and it was up and down. I was doing supplements, nothing much work. But anyway, long story short, I started juicing and started improving my health again. And I recently read your blog, I think it was last week, about kefir retention enema. And I hadn't been taking, obviously I've been feeding my kefir grains and giving kefir to the children. So I still had my kefir, but I got rid of the kombucha because I was just worried that, could I have a contaminated sample, because it was done at home. So I ended up trying, I put in on Instagram today about tiger nut kefir. I started making tiger nut kefirs, and that was good because I was not taking dairy at all. I make my own milk, plant-based milk, so it was fine. I'm just not sure how it works. I can't get any information anywhere, and I've tried twice doing a retention enema with tiger nut kefir, about 5-10 mils.
Are you doing the kefir grains or are you doing the milk?
No, just the milk. I'm not doing the grains because I'm just thinking, could I be going too crazy using the grains? I've read about people using the grains. And then I recently got this. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? So this is like what you do on your website. This is the kefir company. So they do the culture starter. So I wasn't sure if I should use this because I didn't want to use the grain. So I don't know. Can you just help me out, please?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Well, I have a really good blog on histamines. If you're having histamine responses, which it sounds like you might be, it just means that you're out of balance in some way. You might need to, like, for instance, if you're having histamine responses, one of the good kefirs to do is rice kefir. That really helps people bring down those histamines because it just means you're out of balance. I mean, we have all these autoimmune diseases and just something is out of balance. And a lot of people have been writing me about this. I don't know if you guys know, if you read my last week's email, it talked about how this one woman had so many problems and she did kefir implants. She just took the kefir grains, ground them up in a blender with water, and up she went. So anyway, she did an implant with that. And I've had several people tell me, I have never done that, but they have done that. And so the depending on your gut imbalance, and you said you're using what kind of milk? Tiger milk?
Tiger nuts. So it's a chofa. In the Spanish people call it the chofa or something milk. It's not a nut, obviously. It's a legume that grows on the ground.
Is it working for you? Is it doing okay?
So far, I haven't had any histamine reactions. Right. So that's a positive because taking them orally has not been very well. I haven't had good reactions with that. So I just don't know if I should carry on doing it or not. I don't have serious issues with gas because I'm really conscious about my food and really ensure I don't take things like gluten, but I want to just take nourishing foods because some things I can't eat because of the histamine, and most healthy foods are high histamine foods anyway. Right. So, but with juicing, green juices have been fine, and normally green vegetables have high histamine content. So I don't know. I just thought if there's any research out there, I could get information.
Yeah, I have a whole blog, an article, if Chris or Macy can find the histamine.
Yeah, I posted that. Just scroll up a little bit in the chat.
Because it tells you which foods are easier for you, because basically you'll probably be able to eat the foods you used to eat before, but you just got to heal some things. Do you know what I'm saying? Because something is out of balance. And so I can send you the information that they sent me that I can tell you what they did in the last email. I'll give you some information on what they did because I haven't done.
That's very kind.
Yes, and also can you send us an email and just say, Mika, that you talked to me about that, and so we make sure.
I will do. Thank you so much.
Yes, and then the histamine one, I really want you to read it because there's a lot of information in there.
I have read it before, but maybe I'll just have a good read again because
Well, did you see the different ones I recommended? The vegetable,
and it. The thing was, at one point, I was taking only about 5 different foods only, but I have improved on what I can eat. Yeah. And like you said, I need to heal. So I just don't want to keep increasing the inflammation, spectrum. I want to bring things down and gradually introduce things. So I would have a good read again. Yeah.
Well, if it were me, I would just do that kefir that's working for you, because if it's not giving you a response, I wouldn't add a lot of other things. I would just clean up the rest of my diet and, de-stress as much as possible.
Yeah.
Because histamines is, also, I mean, our bodies hold our pain. So whatever you've got going on in your life can be flaring up. I mean, here's the deal. I can feel, if I get upset, I can feel stuff happening in my body that is actually causing disease instead of health just because of what I'm thinking. Do you know what I'm saying? So whatever you can do to make yourself feel better, sounds like you're doing a good job. I mean, I'm kind of impressed.
Thank you.
It does. It sounds like you're doing a good job.
Thank you so much.
You know what I mean? I think I'll send you that link that I have for the kefir implants, and I'll also keep in contact with me because I want to know how you're doing.
I will. Thank you so much. I'm really grateful I came across you because it's made a difference to what I do. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Mika. Keep in touch with me, okay? Send me an email.
I will. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Wanda. I saw your hand go up and then go down. Did you have a question?
Yes. First, let me say that I made your kefir sourdough English muffins, and they were wonderful.
They were really good.
Did you like them?
Yeah, yeah.
I know. Mine lasted one day in my house. They were gone. Because my daughter, who's 19, ate about 4 of them. So.
Yes, but thank you for the recipe. My question is, I make cultured vegetables all the time, but can I make them too sweet? I made the last batch with pieces of mango in it, and it seems to have gotten a little sweeter.
Yeah. How much did you put in?
I put about 6 slices.
For how much cultured veggies?
For 2 quarts.
So half a gallon.
Yeah.
So yeah, it can. Mango's very, very sweet. So it could. Now, here's the deal. It's going to continue to get less and less sweet because the bacteria is going to eat it, and it's going to eat the sugars out of it. So it's going to get less and less sweet over time, even in the fridge.
So I take them out now. I can take them out now, right? The mangoes pieces.
You can leave them in. Did you want? Are they in? What are they with?
They're in a long slice.
No, I mean, are they in with cultured cabbage or what?
Yes, yes, yes.
You can leave them in, and they'll continue to just ferment unless you think it's too sweet. You can take them out. It's up to you. But you can. The sugars will eventually go away and take all the sugar out of it. But it's up to you as to whether you think it's too sweet right now. But I bet I would say after another week, they're going to greatly diminish, even in the fridge.
Okay. I had made another batch with cabbage, and I used, instead of water, I used fresh apple cider. Can I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to ferment. Tell you something, cultured vegetables love apple juice. I mean, they seriously ferment it. So it's going to probably be sweet. I wouldn't use a lot, but I do use apple juice in some of my recipes. I think it's in the apple kraut.
You put a lot of water though.
I have a lot of water, but I put a lot of.
I wouldn't use only juice.
Okay.
Don't use just juice because then you're going to make a whole microbrew of hard cider or something. So you don't want to do that.
And they don't seem to be as bubbly as they used to be
because you have too much sugar in there.
Okay.
Because they have so much food, they're not making the bubbles like they normally do. They've got so much to eat. They're going to be less. It's not bad. It just means they have so much food that they don't make as many bubbles. It's too sweet.
But that cultured vegetables has done wonders for me. I've gotten off of acid reflux medication. It is amazing.
It's great, isn't it?
It is great. I wish everybody would try it.
Well, sometimes it sounds kind of like, oh, we can't do all that. But honestly, the stuff that I talk about, I mean, it does do what it says it's going to do. And it's so interesting to me that people don't know this. And it's just food. It's not drugs. It's not, even vitamin supplements. It's just food and what it can do. Because here's the interesting thing about cultured vegetables that I want you to know. Okay, so there's the most prominent bacteria in cultured vegetables, Lactobacillus plantarum. Okay, now that is a transient bacteria, so it only lasts 3 to 5 days in the gut. So you have to keep taking that one because it doesn't. What it does is it goes into the body and it steals food from the pathogens in there. So then they think that that particular bacteria is their buddy, and it's not. It's stealing their food. It attracts it to them. They take all their food and then they all die and exit the body. But that only lasts, you have to keep taking it every 3 to 5 days. You got to keep giving the culture to get the benefits that you're getting because it is a transient bacteria, so it doesn't last long in the body, which is okay because they're delicious, so you can have them. And a spoonful is enough. So you can have as much as you want, but a spoonful does the job.
It does. So it's truly amazing.
Yeah. Have you tried that jicama if you're sickama? Because I'm seeing your girls.
No.
They would love it. You got to try it for them. It's so cool. And here's the cool thing about it. Okay. It's jicama. Do you know what jicama is?
Yes.
Okay. So do you have a Trader Joe's?
Not closed, but we can go to one. Yes.
They have jicama sticks, so you don't have to cut it up because I'm getting lazy.
Sprouts has it too now.
Who has it too?
Sprouts has it as well.
Sprouts have it?
I don't know if it's in every area, but
Well, they already have them cut into slices for you, which is, the jicamas are round, so you have to peel them and cut them. And I'm just getting lazy. But anyway, you can buy the sticks, and all you do is put orange zest and orange juice in them and let them ferment. And guys, I used to sell these in a store in Kansas City, and I was making so many jars I quit because I couldn't keep up with it anymore, which is kind of dumb for people. But I didn't want to be in the industry of having to make them. They were flying off store shelves because people loved them and kids loved them. They have this hint of orange in them because you put a little bit of orange juice and a little bit of orange zest and just jicama and the culture. So they are incredible, and you can just, your kids, I'm looking at your girls, they would love them.
Yeah.
So you got to try them. It's called jicama. I have a video. It's called jicama. Do I have a video? I think I do. Jicama if you're sickama. That's what we call them.
Okay.
Because my kids, it was what my kids would eat. They loved them.
Yeah.
And they sold really well in Kansas City, but I just really wanted to concentrate more on my blog than to be making foods. And I hated cutting up jicamas because they're round and wobbly. I have to peel them, but you can actually get them cut up now. So that's a good one to try. And if you want somebody, Chris, could you get the link for that?
Yep, I'm sorry, in there.
Did you get it? Okay. Yeah. Jicama if you're sickama. I don't know if that's just a recipe, but there's a whole article. I think it has did I make a video? I think I did something. I don't remember. Anyway, I'll give you the recipe.
We will give that a try.
Yeah, you would love it. Your kids would love it too. Let me know. Email me if you try it and like them.
I will. Thank you.
And they're really, oh, you know what else? Okay, so you can even make them Christmassy. So you can put a little bit of cranberry in there too, like just a few of the little things. And what else did I put? A cinnamon stick and orange in it. It's delicious. So I think that's in my new ebook coming out. So that's another way you can make a Christmas jicama. So
Okay.
So
Thank
thanks for
you.
joining.
All right, Linda's been waiting patiently for a while. How's it going, Linda?
Good.
There's Linda. Okay, there she is.
Yeah.
Hi, Linda.
Yeah. Hi. I thank you. Now I've been doing kefir for a long time, and I really love it, but I never was successful with kombucha. And so I did it. I got your belt and did the belt and everything and made up the tea. But when I poured it off into the bottles, and I had those airlock bottles, and put fruit in it, then it did not carbonate.
Okay.
It was just flat.
Okay, so the secret to this is that you cannot bottle your kombucha if it's really tart or vinegary. It's missing. You gotta ferment it when it's just a tad bit sweet, because it needs those sugars to create the bubbliness. That's what it's creating. The good yeast are creating the bubbles from the sugars. So if your vinegar is overly tart, it's not going to happen. And I have a whole article on this too, Chris. Can you find that for?
Which article?
My kombucha is not bubbly.
Yeah.
And it shows you gotta kind of catch it when it's just tiny bit sweet, and then put the fruit in it, and then ferment it, and then the yeast, the good yeast that make the carbonation, have enough food to make the carbonation. So it probably was getting too tart when you made it.
Okay. Well, I tasted it. I thought it tasted okay, but maybe it wasn't that sweet. I can't remember.
Was your plain kombucha bubbly?
No.
Okay, so it's probably, but it was making a Scoby?
Yes, it made a Scoby. It made a nice Scoby.
Yeah. You're probably over fermenting it is my idea. How warm's your house?
Okay. Well, my house is like 60 to 65, but I had the belt on.
Okay. It probably is just over fermenting. You want to get it before it gets super tart. You want to get it right when you can still taste that it's got a little sugar, because then when you second ferment it, it's going to remove that sugar. It's going to eat those sugars, but it's going to use that to make the bubbliness. And I think Chris put, help, my kombucha is not bubbly. There's a link there that you can, it kind of gives you more information than what I'm giving you here.
Okay.
It explains the science behind it better. So hopefully that will help. So if you have trouble, you can email me, okay?
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, who else is?
All right, next, Reese's had a question about the salt content for cultured veggies.
Reese's, okay, yes. The salt content, what was the question? Just how much to put in, or where's the question?
We can hear you, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking my call. And yeah, there's conflicting advice as far as the salt content. And what I mean by that is there's 3 different ways that I found. If you go onto different blogs and read different books, that I found. And so to go over them real quick, the first one would just be you base the salt, the weight of the salt that you put in off of the vegetables, or the second one is you base the weight of the salt off of the quantity of the water that you put in. And then the third one is you base the amount of salt for the brine, right? So,
Right.
And the third one is you base it off the water that you're going to put in, but also the water content of the vegetable, because it's going to be permeable. And so if you have a very wet type of vegetable, you're going to want to take that into account, because that's going to factor into your brine percentage.
Right. Are you just doing it with salt and not a culture? Are you making your culture?
Well, I found that it's faster if I add the culture, but I could do it wild just as well. It just takes longer. But normally I'll add a wild sauerkraut culture to whatever I'm doing.
Right. Well, here's the deal. When you're just using salt to make cultured vegetables, which you can do, you need to make sure you have enough salt in there to drop the pH in the vegetables so they'll ferment properly and make everything safe. Which, I mean, I have the amount on all my recipes. Now, I think one of these you've gotten is from Sandra Katz. I think.
Yeah,
he's
book,
great.
Yeah.
He is the one I recommend. He is where I learned my stuff from. He's kind of a genius about all of this, about fermenting kraut with just salt. And if you're using a culture, you can use less salt, because the culture is going to allow it to culture properly. It's going to drop the pH for you. And we have a cutting edge cultures product, and it shows the pH levels on the back of the box. It shows with salt, without salt, what happens. And so that's what we recommend. You don't need to use as much if you have a culture. Now, if you don't have a culture, I would recommend Sandra Katz's method, which I believe was based on the vegetables, I think is what it is. Isn't that the one that you think is the first one? Because then it allows it to properly ferment. And I actually have an article on this, on how much salt to use if you're not using culture. But if you are using a culture, you don't need as much salt. It's going to ferment properly because of the culture itself.
And I understand. I understand all that. My point really is, like, let's say you just have a little bit of vegetable you want to culture. You put it in a big gallon jar, and you put in, and you're basing your salt content off of the vegetable, then you're just going to have a very thin, small percentage of brine. It's not going to be that much. So the volume of the jar definitely matters, and the volume of the water definitely matters if you're not, filling it up to the max, because it varies so much
with the water
how much vegetable you put in. So I would think that you would have to take into account the water, because if you just took into account the vegetable weight and you used a big jar, you'd have a very weak brine that could be very, very low, actually.
Well, and the brine is actually, the reason that you have the brine to begin with, the water that's in there, is to submerge the vegetables under the water so that acidifying bacteria can allow the thing to ferment. So the brine won't be as strong if you add a lot of water. If half of your jar is full of water, we have a recipe that has a lot of brine in it, and I think it's called gut juice or gut shots or something like that. And yet, because of the activity of the cultured vegetables, and even though there is more water in it, the bacteria that's in there proliferates, because bacteria wants room to grow. So if you do have more water on it, you're going to get more good bacteria in there, because it's going to grow like crazy because it has room to spread out. So that's the theory behind not having too many. For instance, I don't really like using kefir whey to make cultured vegetables, because there's so much bacteria in kefir whey that it competes with Lactobacillus plantarum, which is the most important one in cultured vegetables. So even though you're having more water and you still have the good bacteria you still have vegetables at a certain amount. If you're adding more water, you're going to increase the amount of good bacteria in that jar, just because of the volume itself.
So then my question would be, how low can the salinity, the brine salt percentage, how low can that go before the other bacteria start to outcompete the Lactobacillica? Because that, from my understanding, that's the main reason to salt it, is because it provides the lactic bacteria the ability to outcompete other bacteria in that environment. So if it doesn't have the salty environment, it could be outcompeted. So for instance, Kat's book, he recommends 1.5% brine to 3%, all the way up to 3%.
Yeah, and that's a really good ratio, because that's going to allow you to have more probiotics in your cultured vegetable. Because, for instance, when you have that, it was 1.5 brine to the vegetables, but you can also, here's the deal, you can also get too technical with this, and that's the beauty of cultured vegetables. It's unique to your home. I mean, you're going to have more bacteria in your vegetables or mine, depending on how much bacteria you have in your home, because it's on your hands, it's in your home, it's in your jars. Do you know what I'm saying? It's all dependent on how much cultured vegetables you make. Every time you make them, you're going to have more in the next batch and the next batch, because you're going to infuse it with that, just because the nature of who you are is good bacteria. So when you have more brine versus more vegetables and more salt, the salt does help drop the pH, which makes more acidifying bacteria. That's true. That's really good. And his ratios are very, very good. But I have seen a lot of people not follow those ratios and do very well and actually get well. Do you know what I mean? Who have kind of screwed up some stuff, and it shocked me, and yet it still made them well. I was shocked. Do you know what I'm saying? Me too. And that includes me. I've done different versions of salt, and I mean, down through the years, I wanted to keep the vegetables crunchy. And so, but I have done it with less, and still I've seen it knock out colds and flus, and even when it wasn't perfect, because the acidifying bacteria themselves are going to do the job, not you. You don't have to make a perfect environment for them. Here's the thing: the cells of your body, the bacteria that lives inside of you, is an extreme form of intelligence. It knows what to do. Do you know what I'm saying? And it really is important that you just keep them submerged underwater and have either a culture or salt in there. The salt makes a huge difference. But I don't over salt mine like a lot of people do, because I'm not fermenting for 6 weeks. That's another thing. A lot of these people that need to keep the salt ratios correct are fermenting their vegetables for 6 weeks. I'm not doing that. I only do mine 6 days. That's another key thing to make sure the ratios of salt to water are important, is because it depends on how long you're going to ferment it.
Yeah. On the high end, you said they salted a lot. What's been your experience with what percentage of salt is too much for the lacto bacteria?
You know, for a gallon, let's see, if I do a half quart, I think it's a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons per half gallon. And when I go much above that, I don't like the taste. It's too salty. All I taste is the salt. And so pickles is different. Pickles, I put much more salt in than any other cultured food to keep them crunchy, and that doesn't seem to bother me. But if I get it too much higher than that, it tastes too salty to me, and then that's all I taste. And I haven't seen the benefits of it being more salty either.
Yeah, because I'm asking because I'm also looking at making some corned beef, and so the meat, I definitely want to make sure that there's enough.
Yeah, that's a whole other ball game though. Now, meat requires a lot more salt than vegetables or anything else. You need to add a lot more salt. That's a whole other world. So I would, if you're going to ferment meat, does Sandra have stuff about meat? I think he does. Does Sandra? I'm not sure.
I don't know. I don't remember him writing about it. I think at the very end there might have been something about it. But
there's a new book that just came out on that. I just saw it pop up in my feed in Amazon. Somebody was talking about, or maybe it was YouTube. I just saw one on that, fermented meats. I'll see if I can find it, and if you send me an email, I'll see if I can find it and send it to you, because it was really interesting. I haven't tried it, but it looked really good. But I know a lot of people who do that and do very well with fermented meats. So, and fish. A lot of them do fish. So some of them bury it in the ground.
Yeah, they salt it and they dry ferment it.
Yeah, and it does really, really well. Especially, I think it was a friend of mine in Alaska who did that, and they have a lot of really interesting fermented fish. It has a very strong flavor. So,
they call it stink fish.
Yes, very strong. So, but they love it. So
They do, yeah.
Power to you. I can't do it. So, but there are other meats that are really good. So if you want that, I'll see if I can find that for you.
And what's been your experience with the fruits? So lacto-fermented fruits.
Well, okay,
As
I
opposed
have
to
a few
veggies.
fruit recipes, but they do lose all their sweetness over time. And they do get super bubbly, like almost alcoholic if you let them go too long. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which, you know, all fermented foods have a small percentage of alcohol, which isn't harmful. That's just part of fermentation. I mean, yogurt has that. I mean, there's so many foods that have it that you don't even realize. But fruits will get super bubbly, and then they'll lose all their sweetness. So you got to eat them quickly. I like to add fruits to my cultured vegetables. I love that. It makes you have you get more of a taste. You get a better taste, but you also get more probiotics because it gives the bacteria something to eat. So I really like adding an apple, a quarter of an apple to my cabbage, or I've added strawberries to my kraut, which are absolutely delicious. My favorite is blueberry kraut. It tastes like a mouthful of blueberries. It's so good. It's got spinach, cabbage, and blueberries in it. It's absolutely to die for. It's one of my favorite cultured vegetables. So I do that. I have some apples that I ferment by themselves. And I have a cultured carrot cake that's really good. It's got pecans and carrots and walnuts and cinnamon spices. That's really good, but you got to eat it right away. So like within a week.
Yeah, so it just happens faster, basically.
Yeah, because there's so much food. There's so much food for the bacteria, so it really ferments fast. Chris, can you find that cultured carrot cake one for him? Sure. And you can see that, because carrots have a lot of sugar in them too, but it is really good. And I have an apple one too that I do that's really good. But over time, they'll lose all their sweetness. So, which is good because then you know the bacteria is alive and well because it's eating all the sugars out of the food. That's what cultured foods do. It's kind of cool when you think about it.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you fermented the lacto-fermented the apples, if you could catch it so that you could get some sweet and sour apples.
Yes.
So in other words, yeah, you can.
They're so good.
I want to try that.
They're so good. I love them, especially this time of year. And I'll just put a cinnamon stick in there. I put a star anise in there. I can't remember what else I put in the things. I've got two different ones that I make.
You do need to eat them quicker though, because they'll continue to slowly ferment in the fridge.
Yeah. But they're really good. You'd like them. You do get sour and sweet. You do. And it's kind of cool. I really like that. It's really good around the holidays too. I like them for the holidays. And you can even take the apples and blend them up after you're done and eat them. They almost taste like applesauce. So they're really good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for answering the questions and appreciate it.
Absolutely, Reese. Thank you. Send me an email if you see if I can find that book on fermented meat. So
yeah, because that's
very. Then I want you to try it, and then you tell me about it, okay? Because I don't know if I want to try it. So it'd be fun to do. So anyway, Chris, are we about done? Do we?
Yeah, I think that's a good time to wrap it up. Just want to say thank you everybody that joined and everybody that's watching on YouTube Live. I'm sorry we didn't get a chance to answer everybody's questions over there. There are a lot of them. We hope to do this live Q&A again, so hopefully next time you'll be able to join in and talk to Donna. Anything else, Donna?
No, I just want to tell everybody if they have something they really need to talk to me about or ask me, they can always email us at go to my website, culturedfoodlife.com, and hit contact because I'm happy to help anybody. I enjoy this. You guys, it's made such a difference in my life, and especially around the holidays and that are coming up. And these foods keep you well. They will help you get through the holidays. Before we go, I want to tell you this. So, there's a lot more sugar around the holidays, right? And sugar drops your immune system by 75% when you eat it because your cells think that the vitamin C that is normally in your cells, it thinks that the sugar, since it's the same construct, it pulls it in. So then your immune system drops because the vitamin C in your cells drop because they're filled with sugar. So if you're going to eat a lot of sugar, really want you to have some cultured foods through the holidays. It can make all the difference. Even if it's just a spoonful of cultured vegetables or a couple spoons of kombucha or kefir for breakfast, it can really keep you healthy through this time, and especially when you're having more things that you don't normally have. And I have a whole article on that if you want to learn more about that. I think it's called, I can't remember, Sugar Drops Your Immune System by 75%. I think that's the name of it. I want you to especially with the holidays coming up. It'll help you. I'm going to have lots of holiday recipes for you guys to eat. And I want to thank you guys for coming and spending a little bit of time with me. I hope it helped you, and I hope I could help you in the future. And I really hope you try cultured foods. It has changed my life, guys. I've never been the same. I haven't quit doing it for 20 years because it's made all the difference. So have a great weekend. Hopefully we can do this again. And thanks for joining me.